The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, greetings. Welcome to another presentation in this public service nation-building series, The Law and You. This is program number 847, coming to you on Monday the 28th of November 2016. On this program, I will speak to you on the topic bench warrants. But before getting into the topic, a few preliminary matters. Firstly, my condolences go out to all families which have suffered recent bereavements. And in that connection, condolences go out to the Cuban family. That's right. All the people of Cuba on the passing of former President Fidel Castro. As everyone knows, President Castro died towards the end of last week. The Cuban bulletin from President Raul Castro said he passed away at 10:29 p.m. on Thursday evening, and we heard the news on Friday morning. Very little remains to be said about former President Fidel Castro. We in St. Vincent and the Grenadines have been hearing about him from the days of the Cuban Revolution, throughout the period, and at the very latest, during the period of the initial construction of the Argyle International Airport, we were made aware of the tremendous contribution made by the government and people of Cuba to that project. We are also aware of the contribution Cuba has been making to the education of Vincentians. Many of our persons of caliber have been educated in Cuba at the expense of the Cuban government and people. We have got enormous benefits medically. You recall the program when hundreds of patients suffering with various eye disorders went to Cuba for surgeries and other treatments on their eyes, so that the country Cuba has played a significant role in our development, and we owe it all to the policies established by former President Fidel Castro when his Cuban Revolution got going. He took a stand in support of the liberation of third world countries which were still under imperialism and colonialism. Cuba was one of the few outside countries which sent soldiers to fight in Southern Africa for the liberation of Southern Africa. And in very many ways, President Fidel Castro has made his mark on the international scene, so that his passing marks the end of an era, an epoch in Cuban history. Those of us who have had the benefit of actually going to Cuba and seeing for ourselves don't want anybody to tell us what Cuban society has achieved. In my case, I am additionally grateful not just for the privilege of having been able to go to Cuba at the beginning of 2008, but my last child was educated. He had his tertiary education in Cuba, where he graduated as a civil engineer. I refer to my son, Daniel Tambo Samuel Campbell. Therefore, I say thank you once again to the government and the people of Cuba on my own behalf, and on that of my family, and on that of the former Committee for the Liberation of the Cuban Five, which has been achieved. I understand that the Prime Minister of this country is going to Cuba to pay his respects, and that is quite appropriate in view of the fraternal ties we have had with Cuba and in view of Cuba's contribution to the welfare of not just St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but other OECS countries and the Caribbean in general and the Third World as a whole. May his soul rest in peace as former President Fidel Castro's ashes are laid to rest in a few days' time in Cuba. Excuse me. Let me send out my greetings and best wishes to our Deaconess Althea Peters, otherwise known as Nan, who has once again returned to the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital for further treatment. May the good Lord bless and keep you, Sister Nan. And may He bless and keep all the other patients of not just that hospital, but all institutions where people are having treatment for various medical and medically related ailments. Now, on last Thursday evening, we saw the launching of the book Historing of Radicals by Cecil Blazer Williams at French's house. It was quite an impressive occasion, and I want to congratulate Blazer once again on having produced yet another magnificent piece of work. The book is a must-read for all Vincentians, in my humble opinion. And I will be giving copies of the book to various persons as Christmas presents. And I want to urge all you parents, if you're thinking of a worthy gift for a child. When I say child, I don't necessarily mean a young child, but for anyone this Christmas time, consider the gift of a book, Blazer's book in particular. I hope Vincentians will support this most prolific of our natural authors. Blazer has written several books of poems. He's written a novel before, and this is his second novel. Also on Thursday morning this week, the 1st of December, our sister Sylvia Williams Gould will be launching her book, this time at the Memorial Hall, 9 o'clock in the morning. I haven't seen the book yet, but it is called, and I have the names written down, A Rude Awakening. And as I see it, I don't know if they are twin books or what, but I look forward to getting a copy of Sylvia's book. And it heartens me to see so many Vincentians entering into the field of authorship and are producing books, whether books of poetry or works of fiction or even works of non-fiction. Now, as has been remarked by one of the speakers at Blazers launching, our reading public has tended to shrink in recent years. People apparently are reading less and less. Let me say to you that from my own personal experience, the cultivation of the habit of reading is one of the best ways you can use to develop your intellect. Believe you me. I think it is my reading that has helped me all throughout my various educational endeavors. So you must try and find some time to read books other than the Bible, which you really must read, but other than books which are written by people abroad with no particular merit, no assistance to us in terms of our development. You know, some people are fastened on various romantic novels and other things which can hardly be as developmental for us as the products of our own young intellectuals. So I commend Sister Sylvia Williams' Gould book to you, and I hope that after I've read it I would have a few more things to say about it. Excuse me once again. Okay, final preliminary remark. I take the opportunity to send heartiest congratulations to the Honorable Godwin Friday, who has recently become the leader of the opposition and the president of the new Democratic Party. I wish you all the very best, sir, in your political endeavors. I now come on to the topic for the evening, bench warrants. A bench warrant is a document by which someone on the bench orders the arrest of a person to be brought before that officer on the bench. Let me repeat. Someone on the bench signs a document saying, I want this person arrested and brought before me at such and such a time on such and such a date. That is what a bench warrant is in a nutshell. A warrant issued from the bench. Let me explain the word bench. The term bench in law is used to designate an official or group of officials who preside over legal processes in courts of law. So we refer to a magistrate as someone on the bench. We refer to a judge as someone on the bench. We refer to the president of the family court as someone on the bench. So the word bench has nothing to do with the physical structure on which someone sits. You know, we're accustomed sitting on benches in various places. In schools, churches, although in church we call them pews, but in shops you might have a bench, and indeed in police stations you have benches. But the term focuses on the official who sits there exercising jurisdiction over legal processes. Those legal processes might be criminal processes or they might be civil processes. And therefore you will hear the phrase bench and bar. The bench referring to those who sit in authority, presiding over a legal process. And when you hear the term bar, it doesn't necessarily mean a place where you go to drink. But in the law, bar refers to lawyers. It is a shortened form of the word barrister. And when barristers are enrolled to practice, we say that they have been called to the bar. Therefore, when you hear the phrase bench and bar, it really means magistrates and the judges as the bench and lawyers as the bar. So that is where bench warrant comes from. So let me get into bench warrants proper. For various reasons, the person presiding in court, be he or she a magistrate or a judge, may deem it necessary to have somebody brought before them in court in connection with a proceeding taking place in court. The most usual occurrence which necessitates the issue of a bench warrant would be the failure of a named person to appear in court at a certain time and on a certain date. You see, if you get a summons, which is a document ordering you to come to court at a particular time and date, and you don't show up at that time and on that date, when your name is called and you are not there, the presiding officer, and I will use the term presiding officer to mean either the magistrate or a judge, or in the case of the family court, the president or deputy president of the family court, the presiding officer would inquire about the failure of the person to be there at that time. Your name is called. You are not there. The presiding officer would ask one of the persons in authority in the court, most likely a prosecutor, where is so-and-so? And the prosecutor would say, no appearance, Your Honor, or no appearance, my lord. The presiding officer may go on to ask, well, does anybody have an explanation as to why so-and-so is not here? And there may be silence, and everybody will say, well, we don't know. A policeman may stand and salute, and he may say, well, I served the person with a summons, and he would give the date and time when the summons was served and the place where the summons was served. And I told him or her to make sure he is in court in accordance with the information on the summons, that he's supposed to be in court 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever the time, on the so-and-so day of so-and-so month, in such and such court. And the person said, yes, they would be there. Well, if there is no explanation for the absence of the person, the presiding officer may say, I am going to issue a bench warrant for the production of that person. That means I am going to sign a document asking that the person be taken into custody by the police to be brought before me at such and such a time on such and such a date. And when that is duly signed by the presiding officer and stamped, it may go for further processing by having the registrar's signature if it is a high court matter. That document is what is called a bench warrant, meaning an order issued by somebody sitting on the bench for the arrest of a given person to be brought before the court. Note, not the arrest to keep him at a police station forever and ever. Not an arrest to send him to prison, but to be arrested, to be brought to the court. Now, suppose the bench warrant is issued on, say, a Wednesday morning. And suppose that court only sits on Wednesdays. And suppose it's a magistrate's court. The magistrate will say, I want this person brought before me next Wednesday at 9 o'clock or 9:30, whatever time the court starts. That is a week from the day when the bench warrant is issued. Suppose that same afternoon the police happen to run into the person who is the subject of the bench warrant. Are they going to say, boy, I'm coming for you next week, Wednesday morning, to carry to court, because I have a bench warrant here to produce you? Or coming for you Tuesday evening to keep you in custody to carry to court Wednesday? No way. Anytime the police meet that person, that warrant authorizes them to take him into custody then and there and hold him in custody, him or her. And then next week, Wednesday morning, they bring him to court. So a bench warrant is a serious document. The police don't have to wait till the day before court and the day of court the next time. If the court is the next day and you are taken into custody the afternoon of the day when the bench warrant is signed, fine, you'll only have to spend one night in custody. So they take you up in the afternoon, next morning they bring you to court. But if the court is not sitting until a week or how many days after, they are authorized to keep you in custody for that period of time and then bring you to court on the occasion when the warrant states you should be brought to court. Now, there are cases where, for totally unavoidable reasons, somebody who has been summoned to come to court doesn't show up, and a bench warrant is issued for that person. Now, if the person hears that a bench warrant has been issued for him, his best course of action is to go to the nearest police station or go to the police station where the policeman who has received the warrant works. Explain the circumstances and tries to get himself taken before the magistrate the next day or as soon as possible in any court where that magistrate happens to be sitting, to explain his absence, and then the magistrate may authorize his release and say, okay, I hear what you have said. You took ill suddenly and you had to go to the doctor, and you have a doctor's certificate to prove that you were ill and you couldn't go to court, and I'm satisfied you did not willfully refuse to come to court in answer to the summons, so I'm going to cancel the bench warrant. So in those circumstances, if you hear that a bench warrant has been issued against you and you have a good reason for not having been in court, which caused the bench warrant to be issued against you, hustle and get somebody to make a quick explanation so that you could be released. But as long as that bench warrant is in force, you are liable to be kept in custody. So don't take bench warrants lightly. They are serious documents. Okay? All right, well, that is all from this program of The Law and You. I look forward to being of further service to you next week, Monday DV, for another presentation of this public service nation-building series, The Law and You. Do have a very pleasant week, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls. Keep out of trouble so that you are never going to be the object of a bench warrant. And if you are, try and do something to get yourself out of pocketery. May the good Lord continue to bless us all.
The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.